The next thing I'd like to show is how to use extension methods in Scala. So this is kind of, what's a good way to describe this? Extension methods are a feature that lets you add new methods to existing types. So for example, you could say, well, what if my password was something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? And then what I want is to show the user stars in this field right here. So I might want to say, well, let's call that P2. And wouldn't it be cool if you could say, well, on the password method, what I want to do is say something like, I want to hide all those values right here. And if I save that, you'll see some error messages right there because hide all is not a member of string as it shows right there. But we can make it a member of string by doing the following. So what we do is we say we want to create an extension method or methods on the string type. I'll need to give that string type a variable name like that. And now for the most part, we just create the functions that we want to see. So I want to say hide all, and it's a function. It takes in S by default right here. So I can access S right here. And all I have to do is specify that I want to return a string from that. And then all I have to do is, in this case, s.replace all. So I want to replace every character with the star character like that. And now if I do a print line on that P2 right there, and if it didn't make any mistakes, we'll see that that works and it prints out that result right there. So as you can see, to the end user, it appears like I just added a hide all function to password, which again, password is a string right here. And we can make all kinds of fun functions up here to add them to the string. A fun one for me is to increment that string. So then we could say, I'm going to still return a new string to you. And what I'm going to do is this functionality right here. So the way you read this is for every character in the string S, what I want to do is increment that by 1 and then convert it back to a character. So in this area, you're kind of treating that as the numeric character, and then I'm converting it back to the character with the letter C, capital C right there. And this makes a string in the end. And it does a really fun thing here. So you could say print line HAL, HAL, and increment. And save that. And in the output here, you can see that HAL is converted to IBM right there. And that's the way this function works right there. And again, it appears right here that increment has been added as a function onto the string type right there. Another fun one is that you could treat a string as a Boolean. So I'll create an as Boolean function. And this is just to show you something different. So in this case, I'm going to return a Boolean type here. And then I'm going to say S map. And again, notice that this S right here is coming from there, up there. And now what I want to do is this first case, I used to work with the Perl programming language, and Perl would let you treat strings as Boolean fields. And if I remember right, this is how they interpreted them. So anything that was a 0 like this, a 0 string like that, a 0 string like that, a blank string, or maybe one space right here, they would refer to that as being false or consider that to be false. And anything else in the universe would be true. And I'm sorry, that should be match if you were confused about what I was doing. So it was the compiler. And now that that's a match expression, then these case statements make more sense. So we come back here and add a few tests. So print line, and then we could say, well, is 0 as Boolean. And we get a little bit of compiler and IDE support there, which is nice. So that will be looked at as a Boolean, and then I'll try a 1. And you could go on with more examples, but that should be good enough for what we're doing right now. And we see the results right here. So all I wanted to do in particular with this last example was show that even though, yes, you are taking a string as input here, what you're returning can be any other type. So in this particular example, I'm returning a Boolean from the as Boolean function. Now, one other thing you can run into, and let me comment all this stuff out here. One thing you can run into is you might need a function that takes an additional parameter besides the string right here. So notice how in these examples, this was a string, I called a function on it. This is a string, I called a function on it, and so on here. The thing here is that I didn't pass any parameters into these functions here like that. So kind of a good example here is you could say, well, I want to have a function named makeInt, and then you can pass in something that's called a radix. And you'll see how that works in just a moment. So we could do something like that and this. So I'm just getting this code ready. And now what you do is you come back up to this extension area here. So I can still add this in with these other functions right there. And I will say def makeInt. And now in this area, you just specify that extra field that you need. So that one was called radix, as I mentioned. And this one is going to convert that into an int. So again, I'm returning something new here. And the algorithm I looked up here, and this is very important to say that I'm ignoring possible errors. So anytime you try to convert a string to an int, you should handle the possible errors, but I'm ignoring that possibility right now. But the way this would work is you would say integer.parseInt, and I want to parse the string that I'm given here. So this is the string that's over here on the left side. And then this variable here is going to be what's passed in right there. And that's this radix right there. So this is kind of an interesting function because makeInt gets the string from up here and then gets the radix from its column right here. So this is very similar. If this was a class up here and it was something like, I don't know, class person, and then it had that string right there like that. That's basically all we're doing is we're accessing this field inside of here like that, but it's not a person. It is an extension method on the string type. If I didn't make any mistakes, I could press save and then we should see the results here. And there we go. And if your binary arithmetic is good, you can get a good idea of what makeInt is doing with this radix value right there.